Larry, I've been wanting to talk to you since this weekend rolled around because you were able to make it down to minicamp. I've read, I think, every article. I've watched a lot of videos that have been produced from minicamp. But there's no eye that I trust more than yours. So let me just ask you. Don't empty the entire bucket here. I want a specific answer. And this is a Rorschach test. So I guess the first thing that pops into your mind is the correct answer. What is the biggest impression that you took away from minicamp? Either, a player, a moment. What's the single thing that stayed with you the most from minicamp where you actually think you learned something?
Well, okay. First of all, you got to know what you're watching. All right. You're watching players who don't know the system, and you're also watching only rookies or second-year guys who were on the practice squad. So, you have to factor that in when you're talking about, how do the receivers look in this camp? A lot of people are debating that.
Right.
Well, they looked good. But the quarterbacks, one of the guys there was from Davidson College or something like that, and he looked really raw. The other was Tanner Mordecai. But, Brock Purdy wasn't out there. So, I've heard people say, Ricky Pearsall looked terrible. No, he didn't. He did not look terrible by any stretch. I don't know why anybody would even go there. And stop giving me fucking camp stats. If I got to listen to one more person throw out camp stats, I'm going to puke. Camp stats mean shit.
Larry, he was targeted.
And OTA and rookie minicamp stats mean less. So stop giving me your camp stats. I'm going to get really pissed this summer. And this happened last summer where it's like somebody bust out their camp stats and it's like the end all be all. Or, this guy looked terrible against the Raiders from 2 fields away. Who cares? I think it's pretty clear at this point that, you want to evaluate practice, but not on that level. It should be more about conditioning and movement. It should not be about success ratios and stats. Right. You had 3 tackles. You had 3 tackles, Damon. You had 3 tackles. How was Blankety Blank's practice? He had 3 tackles.
Did they look connected? Did they look like they would be able to function together? Well, they just met yesterday. Everyone literally met each other for the first time on Friday. This is the
Nobody
first
knows any plays
together. Yeah, they don't know each other, the playbook, the routes, the patterns, or anything about anyone's instincts or habits. But it should all look really good in day one. It's it's like, and they targeted him 4 times, but they didn't complete any passes. There was a couple passes where Ricky Pearsall came out, ran a phenomenal little pattern, turned his head, waited for the ball, and the ball sailed so far over his hands that he didn't even really jump. Now you could look at that and be like, poor effort. He didn't even jump, but it was such a bad pass that it wasn't even worthy of jumping for. So as far as like what stood out the most, I think what stood out the most to me was Malik Mustafa. Malik Mustafa is a tremendous talent. He's built like kind of like a thicker linebacker type guy. He's 5, whatever he is, 5'10", 210 or something like that, 5'11", 210. He's not big. He looks thick, but then he moves with confidence. He looked like he was mastering every drill. He was the most impressive looking individual on the defensive side for sure. He just looks like a guy who's ready to play right now. And he's got better movement ability than you would ever believe somebody that size would have. He's talking out there. He's kind of an alpha. He's a leader as he was billed. So he looked the best as far as him and Renardo Green. I thought, they are the alpha type personalities, and you could kind of see that on the practice field. And then I would say the other guy that really stood out to me was Dominic Pooney, the offensive lineman from Kansas, who's just, he's big, he's fast. There's a nastiness kind of to him.
He's really strong, but also has great lower body, feet and quickness and movement ability. He looks like a guy who could come in and take that right guard job. So to me, I felt like I was looking at two starters there. Mustafa could start at safety for sure, and there's no question that Pooney could start at right guard.
In terms of just physical prowess, whose size or lack thereof stood out to you?
Whose size? I would say, well, I mean, Mason Pline is 6'8". He's a 6'8" tight end. So, but he's also got upper body strength. Like I was expecting to see kind of a basketball linear build, a guy who's just going to get blown away. No, not at all. This guy's got guns. This guy's got, big, strong looking upper body. Like he's been working out in the weight room. I thought he caught the ball well. The other thing I always look for in the minicamp is who's getting coached the hardest, because there's guys there that aren't even going to be there in a couple of weeks. So you're not coaching these guys hard because they're not even going to be there in a couple of weeks. The guys who get coached the hardest are the guys that they have the most belief in. And Brian Fleury, the tight end coach, was coaching Pline hard. Just making comments on every single one of his movements out there. So they're hoping to get him up to speed in a really thin tight end core, as I think they're tight end too, potentially.
It's the thinnest position group on the team right now, wouldn't you say, tight end?
Well, it's the most unproven because you have no idea what Latu is or Braden Willis. So, I mean, you got Kittle. And then you've got some, I mean, like you might have better talent than you've had in the past because Warner couldn't catch at all, and Dwelly couldn't block at all. So they were like half a linebacker or half a tight end each. So you had Kittle, and then you had a blocker who couldn't catch and a receiver who couldn't block. Now you have Kittle, but you have Latu in year 2, Willis in year 2, and now they've got this Mason Pline kid who's 6'8" with great hands, and he's really smart. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's actually maybe better in some ways, but yeah, as far as proven guys, the most unknown group is tight end for sure.
Tanner Mordecai, did you see anything out of him, Larry, that you think, means that he's going to actually push either Josh Dobbs or Brandon Allen for a spot on this team?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the same trait that I saw from Purdy a couple summers ago, I saw from Mordecai here, which was he's a veteran. He's played a lot of college football. He is mastering all these drills. There's nothing they're asking him to do that he looks just calm, cool, collected, almost borderline bored out there. So that's what I'm looking for. He doesn't have the touch or the loft or his ball he doesn't throw the ball. He comes out on time and he's got some zip, but he doesn't have great touch. And on his deep ball looks flat, like flatter, kind of like Trey Lance's deep ball used to look like. He doesn't drop it in the bucket. It's a flatter pass. So he needs some improvement in his touch and everything. But as far as just, command, in control, very calm, knowledgeable, he's got a lot of the same things that Purdy has because he's played a lot of football and it shows.